Hey everyone, I'm Gabe, founder of Fluent Forever, and I've built an app that can get you to fluency in a foreign language in 6 months. So the problem we're solving is a straightforward one. Most people in the world wish they could speak another language, and yet language learning tools don't work. And they don't work for three main reasons. They don't start with ear training, they're not focused on the right information, and then they don't repeat that information at the right rate so you can actually remember it long term. So let's start with ear training. Several years ago, I learned Hungarian to speak with my grandparents, and I hit this monster of a word. This is fényképezőgép. It's the word for camera. And if I distract you for literally 2 seconds, you will have forgotten that word. And that happens because fényképezőgép is composed of sounds that you've never learned how to hear. So ear training is your first barrier to entry, and there's a very quick fix for it. You just have to practice telling the difference between similar sounding words like doma and toma. So our app trains your ears, and then builds personalized flashcards to help you remember that training. When you learn that P is for pelota, you choose your favorite pelota. And you do that because when you personalize your own content, it becomes much more effective. So we personalize everything that every user sees. And that takes us to learning the right information. When I told you that fényképezőgép was the word for camera, I wasted your time. Your word camera connects to every camera you've seen in your life. It connects to words like shutter, lens, iPhone 11, whereas fényképezőgép connects to nothing, because translations are the least useful pieces of information about any word. So instead of translations, we're going to teach you your first words using images. And then we use fill-in-the-blank sentences next to images to teach you more abstract things, like the preposition en, estar en llamas. The last piece is, when should you repeat this stuff? And the answer is right before you forget it. There are algorithms that will figure that out, and everything you do in our app lives within those algorithms. When you combine all these pieces, you get something that's allowing our users to reach levels of fluency that every other tool on the market can't even approach. Now, there are big players in this market because it's a huge and growing market. But there is research behind every one of our differentiators, and they produce dramatically better churn rates than the competition. In terms of our early traction, my book on this became the only national bestseller about language learning in history. My crowdfunding campaign was the most successful crowdfunding for any app in history. And 14 months after launch, we're crossing 25,000 paying subscribers. This was our May monthly recurring, and this was June. We crossed 100K, and July's looking like another 20% growth month. This is a basic B2C play. It's $10 a month, same pricing as Duolingo Premium. To hit 100 million ARR, we need 1 million customers. And ironically enough, some of the easiest to target customers are churned Duolingo users. We can access them directly on Facebook. We've built a brilliant 20-person team. My tech is led by a CTO who's led teams at Microsoft, Adobe, and other companies for 25 years. And my background was in science and engineering before I became a professional opera singer, learned 8 languages, and started this company. And so that's our story. I'm Gabe, founder of Fluent Forever, and I built an app that can get you to fluency in 6 months.
All right, great job, Gabe. All right, investors, I'm going to go around and get some questions from you. Also, from our syndicate members, if you want to go ahead and ask a question in the Q&A chat room, I'll try to get to those as well. Our YouTube stream viewers, if you want to go ahead and put your questions in your chat room, we'll try to get to those as well. All right, Ben Narrison, let's start with you first. Do you have a question for Gabe?
Sure.
And can you introduce yourself, Ben? It's for the investors. Great. When I go around, introduce yourself, please.
Ben Narrison. I'm an investor at NEA, New Enterprise Associates, about a 42-year-old firm with 1,000 investments behind us, 225 IPOs, currently investing out of Fund 17, which is a $3.7 billion fund. Gabe, you mentioned it's a competitive space, Duolingo being one of the players. There's a bunch. I assume that part of your anchoring belief is that because you teach differently, you create more efficiency. That was sort of implied, if not overtly stated. If you do get me to fluency in 6 months, how do you retain me thereafter? Am I truly fluent without need for you again? Do you assume that I will go on to a second language, or do you have a program to retain me? Because your churn is still high, even though it's not nearly as high as Duolingo. How do I see a long-term revenue stream from a customer through you?
All right, great. Thanks, Ben. Bob Green, do you have a question for Gabe? Let's go on to Cindy. Cindy, question for Gabe. How about you, Ellen?
Thank you for having me here. I'm Ellen. I work with Honest Capital. We focus on seed stage, and we have over 300 portfolio companies. My question is about user growth. I understand that you want to get your initial user from this churned user from Duolingo and Facebook, and how do you plan to grow that after you have the users, your initial user base?
Thanks, Cindy. Jonathan Trieste.
I am Jonathan Trieste with Ludlow Ventures, an early seed stage firm. My question is I buy that you can, with more efficiency, get someone to fluency. What about just engagement and content itself? I know that a lot of users churn not because they're not doing well, but because they're just bored. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Okay, great. Jordan.
The fundamentals on your CAC and LTV, especially in the economy where many of those expenditures are not necessarily going to be key for the consumer. And if you have something on the B2B model, if you have one at all.
All right, thanks. And we have a question from our syndicate member. When are you going to launch English, the second language market in the world? Ready, Gabe?
Cool. I'm ready.
All right, let's tackle those. 2 minutes, 3 to go.
Cool. So Jordan, in terms of CAC and LTV, right now we're about $40, and it kind of doesn't matter where we send people. So we can send people to 2-year subscriptions and immediately get about $50 of profit from that, or our monthly things, which are loss leaders, and we recoup that expense over a few months. And so we're doing all of the above. It targets different segments simultaneously. Right now our spend is about $80K a month from Facebook, and we're trying to scale that by about 20% a month. B2B plays right now focuses on B2C. We have some incoming B2B contracts that we're playing with as experiments, but like B2C is the focus of the company. Ben, you're asking about the 6-month drop, like what happens after you hit fluency in 6 months. I try to be really clear with customers in terms of what we're able to deliver. I can deliver fluency, which is to say B2 level fluency in Spanish. You can really function, have conversations, be comfortable in 6 months if you're giving this thing an hour a day. What we find is the average user gives it about 15 minutes a day. And so that person is about 2 years for Spanish. And if they're trying something like Russian is twice as hard as Spanish, takes twice as long. Japanese takes 4 times as long as that. And so we're upfront with that with our users. We want to be really clear and not do these over-promising things of saying you can get to any language in 10 days and you can speak this thing. Like we deliver a real result in a real amount of time, and the average user is therefore able to get real value from us over a 2-year span if they're giving us the average amount of dedication. Jonathan, you're asking about keeping people engaged and not bored. We're seeing 2 things. One, as we deliver better results, people stick with us more. That's what that churn number means, really. I mean, we're not able to better gamify our app than Duolingo. And so they're sticking with us because of those results, because they're finding they're actually like thinking in French for the first time in their lives after like 2 weeks. But longer term, the goal is to build out a second model, a $100 a month or $50 a month subscription that connects you to native speakers who are checking in with you on a regular basis and helping you practice on an ongoing basis. Ellen, you were asking about user growth and where we go after Facebook. Next channel is Google Ads. Then we'll go after Reddit and Trade Desk and things like that. There's a lot of people out there who want to learn languages, and so we feel like we're not going to run out of people anytime soon.